Hey guys, today we'll be working on some Python programming again. We'll be working on some conditional statements and booleans. So I have my IDE open. We'll be working in pycharm today. I recommend it. It's a good IDE. JetBrains IDEs are always really good. Often better than Visual Studio. So check it out. So we'll be just starting with just a simple code to demonstrate some if and else stuff. So here we'll just declare a constant. High score points to 95. And we'll declare a variable named test1 that points to a casted into input, so we're going to get input from the user. I think I have too many brackets there. Okay, so we'll just take one out. So we'll say enter the score for test 1. And on the next line we'll have test2 points to int, casted to input, enter the score for test2. And the same thing for the third one. So we'll have test3 points to int, I'll just fix that up here. So test3 points to int, casted to input again. Then we'll say enter the score for test3. What's wrong with that here? Okay, that's fine. So we'll say average points to test1 plus test2 plus test3. That should be in parentheses. Actually, it doesn't need to be. Actually, that's fine, yeah. So test1 plus test2 plus test3 divided by 3. Then we'll have we'll print the average here. I think it's similar to a code that we already did where we're going to add something at the end. So we'll say here print the average score is end of the string will pass an average. The average score is comma pass an average. And here we'll have an if statement, so we'll have, I don't think they use brackets in this. Okay, so we'll just have if, we'll try it both ways, so we'll have if average is greater than or equal to. So if we haven't done those before, that just means, I think that's a relational statement. So that just means if average is greater than or equal to. You've seen that before in math. So we'll have, so if average is greater than or equal to high score here. Then we'll have print congrats. And we'll print again. That is a great average. Okay, so so let's try that first. So in an if clause, I think in Python there's none of these. It doesn't like those, does it? No, I don't think it likes those brackets. So the Python interpreter works with indentations. So it doesn't know what an if is. Sorry, it doesn't know what these curly brackets are, I think. So if you're coming from other languages and you try to use them, it's going to be like, what the hell are you doing, right? Like, we don't want that. So just try it without. So indentation, so all these, so every time you indent something, it should be in this block. Pretend like there's a block here, like that. So that's a block, right? But instead, it's that block is going to be denoted with the indentation, or which is done with a tab. Here it was done automatically. Something missing here. Oh yeah, you need the shift semicolon. In Python, they put after conditionals, they put a shift semicolon. And then wait, let's just try with that again. I don't think it wants these, to be honest. Doesn't like it. Yeah, so we'll try it with this, and I'll show you the difference between without the indentation. So we'll just save and run that. We're not going to run through the debugger because we don't really have any variables here. So enter the score for the for test 1. So we'll just say we got 99, test 2 92, and test 3 we got 86. So let's just say the average was 92.3333. The high score is 95. Oh, okay, whoops. So as you can see, we didn't get into that bracket there, so we need into that like high bracket of the test score, so we need to increase that. So let's just say we got 100 every time. And so what happens is, as you can see, if the high score is greater than 95, let's pull that terminal up again. Okay, so as you can see, we have the constant here, high score points to 95. We asked the user to input 3 test scores, and then we calculated the average, saved it to the average variable, printed that out to the output, and it checks that variable if the average is greater than or equal to 95. Then print congrats, and also print that's a great average. Now if we take that indentation out, and we say, so let's try it without now. Let's try going lower than that again. So let's say we got 90, 90, and 90. Then it just says, doesn't say congrats. This time it says that is a great average. Right? If you guys see what's happening here. This time we didn't hit this print statement, but we hit this one because the high score was less than 95. So therefore, because this was the only indented clause, there's only part of the if because it was indented. This statement here wasn't. Right? So therefore, we didn't get in here because didn't hit the high score, wasn't high enough, 90. You needed 95 to get into this block here. Since it was 90, this one got hit because this was not part of the if clause. So if that makes sense, we'll move on to the next one. So now we'll do an if and an else. So I'm just finding my example code here. Okay, here we go. So an if and else works. If one condition is true, then the else won't get hit. But if the if is false, then the else will get hit. So it's like you'll see. It might be confusing at first if you're just learning them. Okay, these notes don't have any indentation from this book, so I might have to just kind of go with the flow here. Whoops, sorry. So we'll have some constants here. Base hours points to 40 times. Actually, no times. So then we'll have here OT multipliers. That's going to be stand for overtime. I'll just call it mult, but that's fine. So OT multiplier equals 1.5. So holiday pay, I guess you get 1.5. Or overtime. So here we'll have hours. Points to float. We'll get some float input. So we'll cast that. So we're casting it to a float right now. So casted float to input. So float casted to input, we're going to take some input here. So float casted to the input function, we're going to add the string here that the question is going to be, or the prompt will be enter the number of hours worked. Sorry, can't type today. So float input, enter the number of hours worked. That's the string. Then hours is going to point to whatever you enter for input. And here we'll have pay rate. Points to same thing, float casted to input. Then the string is and enter the hourly pay rate. So pay rate points to float casted input. The string is that, and then here we'll have the calculation. So we'll call the if. Oh, we forgot to try it with brackets, so we'll just see if it lets us use parentheses here. So if hours is greater than base hours. I usually just do it like that. So base hours. So notice how you can change it. You can do this. You can put white space like that. You can do it like that. Whatever you want. Whatever feels comfortable. For me on the fly, that works pretty well. So if hours is greater than base hours, don't forget the shift semicolon. I don't think it likes those parentheses. Is that a what is that? Maybe it's waiting for a statement here. So here we'll have so if hours is base and if hours is greater than base hours, then we'll say overtime pay. So overtime underscore pay. Oh, whoops. Did we already do? No, we didn't declare that. So here we'll have overtime pay points to overtime hours, which we don't have. Times pay rate. We don't have overtime hours. Okay, so these are on the fly. But where is our overtime hours though? Okay, that's alright. So we'll just go with it for now. And we'll come back if there's something wrong, or I'll show you guys a better example than this book. So I have times pay rate, and then times OT multiplier. So overtime pay points overtime hours times pay rate times overtime multiplier. Okay, here we go. There's so there's a line missing here. Overtime hours should come up here. So we have the if hours is greater than base hours. Then here we'll have overtime hours points to hours minus base hours. So overtime hours points to hours minus base hours. Then here we have overtime pay points to overtime hours times pay rate times OT multiplier. And here we'll have gross pay points to base hours times pay rate plus overtime pay. And here we'll have an else. So the else means so basically if hours is greater than base hours, then this block will get hit. So this is a boolean here, so a boolean statement, or a bool they call it in this. It's a boolean statement, but they call it bool. It comes from Boolean mathematics. Some dude named George Boole created it. 1800s or 19? I think it was 1800s or 1900s. Sometime earlier on, he realized you could have always have one value or the other something. So they use it in circuits. So it's either on or off. The power's on, the power's off. So usually true is 1, 0 is false in C or in other languages. Python might use that as well, that concept. I think it does, but not. You can't just put 1 or 0, it won't know. You actually have to write true or false, I believe. So here if hours is greater than base hours, then this statement is either true or false. So it can only be one or the other. If it's true, if something's true, then the others, that means, so if an if is true, then an else will be false. If an if is false, then the else will be true. So if hours is greater than base hours, right, then this statement's true. That means because hours was greater than base hours. So that's the condition, if hours is greater than base hours. So let's say our hours was 45 and the base hours was 40. Then this statement's true, therefore the control flow of the code will go to the next line. But if hours, then it will continue through the block, through the indentations. So in that case, once the code is not indented, then it'll jump out of the if. How else can I explain this? So if we have, so oppositely, if we have hours points to, so let's say hours points to 35 in this case, and that's great. That's not greater than base hours. So let's say base hours is 40 in this case. So if our hours are only 35, then this statement's false. This statement's going to be false then, right? Therefore, this block would not get hit. In that case, it skips directly to the else. That's for brackets. That's where those parentheses come. Those square brackets that I showed before. That's where they come in handy in other languages, because you can just look at one bracket and see there. If you look and if it's false in this case, then you'll just feel like, oh, okay, well, since this statement was false, we can just skip to the next bracket. Whoops. But in this case, Python doesn't do that. You have to manually look and see where the indentation ends, almost like an English paragraph. So yeah, that's pretty much how it works. I don't really like spacing them out too much. So here we'll have else. The clause is gross pay points to hours times pay rate. So if you're just learning it, you'll be using if and else all the time, every day. If you're coding, you'll always need it. So gross pay points to hours times pay rate. Then we'll just display the gross pay. So here we'll have print the string, the gross pay. So the gross pay is $. Actually, if you're American, if you're using a US dollars, then you do this way. Because in Canada, if you didn't know, the $sign goes at the end of the money. So it's like $100, and that's Canadians like that. But US is like that. So the gross pay, so the $sign here, that's going to print the $sign, then we're going to have the comma that's going to close or end the string. And here we'll call format gross pay. Actually, I'm not sure how Australia and New Zealand does it. I assume they put it at the end as well, but I could be wrong. So here we have format gross pay. We'll put a comma here, another quote. We're going to want a comma, a dot, and then a 2F. So we're going to say we want it to 2 decimal places, and we also want a decimal in there. And we also want a comma in there to space everything out. And that's all. Is that a warning or a error? Can't see what that says. Expected on line 9. Oh, whoops. This should be like that? Okay, there we go. I'm gonna try something here. I don't think it likes this here. Let's try that again. Is that a warning? Oh, you can do that. Okay, I think you might be able to do that, which is nicer to me. But I don't think so you can't do the square brackets. You can't do those. So we'll try this here. I can show you guys how to debug here. So you just put a breakpoint here, click the debugger. I always run my codes once they're actual codes. I always run them to the debugger, even if there's no problem. So Python has a different kind of thing here. Special variables, it says. So once we get here, you can step over, step in, step into, force step into, force step out. So we'll step over this here. So once we step over base hours, you can see base hours points to 40. Doesn't show us the memory location in Python, I guess, at this point. So base hours points to 40. It shows us that it's an int. So that's one of our variables in our code. And here we can, if I click step over again, we have multiplier. So our multiplier is set to 1.5. Here we have hours. It's going to wait for input, so I'm going to have to go back to run here. So still running, so hours points to float. Enter the number of hours worked, so let's just say we worked 50. Where did that go? Console. Okay, I think maybe that should go here. 50. Enter. And I'll get up back to the. So to do that, I had to switch to from the debugger to the console. So to enter input information, you need to click the console. Then here it's going to wait for input. Type something, hit enter, then click back on the debugger tab. So now we have our hours points to 50. That text is kind of small. I've always tried to change it. I don't know how to change it. I'd like to make it a little bit bigger. So we have hours points to 50. That was set from our input. Now we're going to do it again for the pay rate. So we'll step over. I think if you step in, it might take you to the built-in float function. If that happens, I think you can just step out. Just be careful though, because you can get into a nest of built-in functions. So here we'll have the console again, enter the hourly pay rate. Let's just say it's $100 an hour. We'll hit enter, so then we'll have if hours is greater than base hours. So if hours is greater than base hours. So our base hours was 40 in this case, right? So now we have 50. So since 50 was greater than 40, then we should get into this clause. So this time I'm going to step in to get into the clause. So here we'll have, I think you could have stepped over as well, but in this case we wanted to step into this block. Sometimes it may skip, depending on the language, to the next block if you step over, that step over button. If we would have clicked that instead of step into, we would have maybe got there, but maybe not. Just depends on the language. So here we'll have, so all debuggers work the same generally. So we'll have overtime hours points to hours minus base hours. So overtime hours, we'll click our, is it waiting for something? No. So click the debugger here, we'll have, so we have overtime hours, which is, okay, so sorry, our overtime hours is waiting to be initialized. So that's going to take the calculation from hours minus base hours. So 50 minus 40. So we'll step over this time. That should give us 10 for overtime hours. Right there, 10.0, and then we have overtime pay points to overtime hours, which we just got, times the pay rate. That's there, 100. Times the OT multiplier, which is 1.5. So our overtime pay is 1,500. And then we'll have gross pay points to base hours, that calculation there. And as you can see, since our hours were greater than the base hours, we didn't hit this block, the else, because this condition was true. If you guys hopefully can see all that. We don't need that to be that big, but. So yeah, so since that block, this if here was true, we got into this block here of code. Each statement was executed line by line normally. This else was skipped because this statement was true. So if you're new to programming, so if if is true, the else will not get hit because only one or the other statement is true. So since this boolean was true, this one's false. Then here we just print the gross pay is as a format. So here the gross pay is 5,500. So this time we'll just switch it up here. So we'll do less than what it's less than the base hours. So let's just say our base hours worked was 35. We'll hit enter. enter the hourly pay rate. Let's just say we made 200 an hour this time. We'll say the gross pay is 7,000. But as you can see, we didn't get into this block here. Oh, we didn't do it through the debugger. So I'll just click the debug icon. I'll step over there, step over again. So the execution line that is going to go next is the blue highlighted line. So I'll say here hours points to float, enter the input here. So the hours worked. Okay, it doesn't let me make all that bigger, but let's just say we worked 35 hours. Hit enter. Pay rate is $200 an hour. Where are we now? Actually, I think I messed that up. Okay, sorry. So we'll just click that again. Step over, step over, step hours. Let's see. Hours worked is 35. Enter. Then I have to hit that button there. That's why it got messed up, because I didn't click the step over there. So we need to enter the hourly pay rate here. We'll put 200 again. If hours is greater than base hours, so if I click debugger, so since hours, so let me ask you this question. So ask yourself these questions when you go through the debugger, because sometimes you get confused. If it's, for example, like if hours is equal to null, or if it's like if hours is not equal to null, and hours, you're like, well, is hours null or not null? It can get confusing. So if you just say it to yourself, it might help. In this case, it's easier. So if we have if hours is greater than base hours, so then you can switch them in, put in the variables for the word. So you can say if 35 is greater than 40, then you can say, okay, well, is 35 greater than 40? Like logically, is the number 35 greater than 40? It's not, right? So this statement is thus false. In that case, this whole block gets skipped to the else clause. So we'll step in. It's going to get skipped to this else, as you can see. We'll step over and step over. So hopefully that helps you guys understand. So we'll also do some comparing strings in the next video. We'll probably end it there. It's starting to get long, 33 minutes. Probably just take a little break before I make the next one. So that's the start of if and else. So I'll just tell you guys what we'll be doing here. We'll do some more strings. After we compare strings with relational operators, I think that's what we're using here. So Boolean expressions, relational operators, and if and else. That's what we did here, because we did greater than equals, equals, greater than, less than, and then we went some Boolean concepts. We went over some Boolean concepts in programming and coding stuff, in coding. Because this is hit my mic. So these statements here are these are Booleans themselves. These are Boolean conditions, because this statement has to either be true or false. So we went over that, and then we went over if and else. And then in the next video, we'll be going over strings, comparing strings with equal sign, a little bit of the ASCII character code, the ASCII table. That's how they compare strings. We'll compare some strings, and then we'll go over nested if, elif, and else. So that gives you, like, you can have more than two options here. We only had two here. You can have like if and a bunch of elifs, or you can just do if, and else. So I'll show you different combinations. So we'll go over nested, conditionals, and a little bit more Boolean stuff, and then that'll be it. And then in the next start of couple of videos, we'll be going over loops as well. The while and for loop, we'll be getting into that. Just to the core Python stuff. So if you guys learned something, you guys like the video, if you guys like the video, you can like and subscribe to the channel to support the channel if you like, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Take care.